Good morning. Driving into work. I found this girl on Instagram this morning, and she was sharing stories coming up in the music industry. And I thought, man, that's really good. What would I share if I were doing something similar? And the first thing that came to mind is like, there was a time I got my little band back together from high school, and we got a record deal. So I grew up playing music with some friends of mine in West Texas. I'm from a town called Big Spring, and we all played music together. We learned to play together. And their dad, God bless him, had played in bands and literally taught each one of us how to play our instruments. And so anyway, I did that band through high school, and it was great. It kind of became our thing. It was how our identity. And we used to play in bars and stuff at a young age. And we did that through, I don't know, I think by the time I was like a junior, midway through my junior year, maybe we broke up. So anyway, I move off to Nashville. I tour. I leave that world. I run a little rental company for a year and a half, kind of learn that business. And then I start rock and roll in 97. In 98, I had an incredible life-changing event that would be a good story to share sometime as well. But anyway, not today. So I put a little money in my pocket at a young age. And so in my naivete, instead of like doubling down on my business, my initial thought was, oh, I'm going to get the band back together. And so I got my band back together with Mark and Eric McKinney, who I grew up playing music with. And it was great. They were in Austin. They were writing great songs. And so I would fly to Austin. We would do rehearsals. And my mentor was a guy named Dave Thoner. And Dave was making a record with Matchbox 20. He was making what became the Mad Season record, which was their second record. And so I was single at the time, so I was spending my nights hanging out at the studio. And so Mark had written this song called Crazy that my band had recorded. And so Dave was taking a break. We were at the studio from mixing a Matchbox 20 song, actually called Angry. I remember that. And he goes, what have you been up to? And I said, oh, I've finally finished this mix on this song, Crazy. And I played it. And this song, it was really catchy, but it was nothing like the rest of the music we were doing. And so anyway, we're playing it. And then at the end of the chorus, I hear, man, that is a great song. And it's Rob Thomas. He had came in the control room, and he goes, who is that? And Thoner said, oh, that's Rob Dennis's band. And he goes, has Matt heard this? Matt was Matt Surletic, who was Matchbox 20's producer. Fantastic guy. And so anyway, Rob, I guess, said to Matt, have you heard Rob Dennis's band? And so anyway, Matt listened to the song, and then Matt's A&R person called and said, hey, Matt heard a song that he liked from your band. Are you guys in South by Southwest this year? And I said, we're doing private, we're doing private shows at a rehearsal complex. So they're like, great, let's figure out a time. And so anyway, I called the guys in the band and said, hey, look, we're showcasing for what became Virgin Records at the time. Matt Surletic had gone on a tremendous run, and I believe Clive Davis had given him a record label, and he had already signed my friends in a rock band called Color. One of my best friends of all time, Dean Truitt and Chris Can. And so anyway, so now all of a sudden, we're only like 3 or 4 rehearsals back in to playing. And so the whole A&R staff shows up, and we play for them. And those things are always weird, especially if you grew up playing at bars, and it's about entertaining audiences. It's kind of weird to just be playing for like a half a dozen people. But anyway, we did it. We did fine. We were okay. What we had going for us is my high level of bullshit was on stun, and Mark and Eric were writing some pretty good songs. So anyway, I had also played music for my buddy Scott Hendricks, who was running Virgin Nashville at the time, who coincidentally is married to a good friend of mine who her maiden name was Terry Serletic. She was actually Matt's distant cousin. So the following week I was catching up with Terry, and I was like, Terry, we showcased for your cousin Matt. And she's like, you did? So I guess she told Scott that. Well, then all of a sudden Scott is interested in our music, which, no offense to anyone, that's 100% how the music business works, right? You will have no traction ever. And then the moment someone starts sniffing around, and in the case that Rob Thomas had started all this, it makes all the difference in the world, right? Your music's no better. It's no better or no worse than what it is, but this is 100% how things get rolling. So anyway, a couple weeks went by. Matt Serletic's team got back with us. It was like, man, you guys kind of sound like Alabama, which was bizarre to us. We sounded nothing like Alabama. But, you know, we're wanting to do more hard rock. Thank you. And so that didn't work out. But we kept that close to the vest. And Scott was very interested. Brought us in. We had a meeting. They signed us to a developmental deal. I'll never forget the quote. Too many hits not to do it. That was a quote. So they were getting off the ground. The best thing that label had going for them at the time was Roy D. Mercer, the comedian. They were selling tons of Roy D. Mercer CDs. Yeah, CDs. That's how far ago that was. So anyway, we get called into a second meeting, I don't know, a couple of months later, and we just didn't have any hits. So they sent us down to Muscle Shoals. I went just because, you know, I was kind of the default point person for the band. I don't write songs, but I was just like the point person, right? The mouthpiece, if you will. Mark and Eric, not living in Nashville, they really weren't familiar with navigating the waters. So we drive down to Muscle Shoals. 2 songs are written that are fun. We go into the label, and at the time they had signed this guy, Chris Cagle. I'll never forget, he had a song called My Love Goes On and On. And every time we would go in for a label meeting, that song would be played for us as if that was the peak of what was happening at the time that everyone should follow. So it's real funny. Mark McKinney came back to my house that night, wrote a song that was literally almost just like it. And we went back and like played that song, and they were like, that's it. If we have a couple more of those, we got a record. So anyway, this goes on for a couple months. This is a very normal story, right? Anybody that's ever tried to get a record label, done this, you have your version of this story, and they're all very similar. In Nashville, it's almost like everyone has this story. So anyway, I get a call a couple months later, and it's Scott's sweet assistant. Shout out Donna. And she goes, Rob, I know you have a lot of expenses in this project. We are closing our doors on Friday, and if you will get me all of your expenses, we're going to reimburse you for the cost of all your demos. And so anyway, just like that chapter closed. However, one thing changed. That kind act of Rob Thomas signaling a song that he liked totally changed the trajectory of my career. I'm sure he has no idea. Because of that gesture, him doing that, people started looking at me differently. And it was okay for me to work with bands, produce things, do different things. So anyway, I was completely fine with that. I had realized when we started playing shows we got back together, we played our first show, and I realized, like, I don't love this. I love the idea of it, but I'm not a great drummer, and I don't love it, which was weird. But I was still going through the motions because I wanted my friends to have an opportunity. And I thought, if this works out, I'll hire a drummer and manage this thing. But it didn't work out, and I was completely okay with that. I wasn't really, I guess, emotionally that invested to it, which is probably why those things don't work out. And sometimes you're just not good enough. Nobody really says that a lot. They always go, oh, it's timing and luck. Like, yeah, those things are important. But I also have this theory that if you create something great, it eventually finds its way. People will notice. So anyway, weird random story. Oh, I rambled way too long, 11 minutes. If this type of thing is interesting, maybe I'll do it more. Anyway, hope everybody has a great Monday. See ya.